Okay, I just had fun distorting the living hell out of a vocal here, and I kind of just want to give you a rundown of what I did, but not just what I did, but why I did it, and maybe that would help you guys in your quest for some of your distorted vocals. Okay, so let's kind of start. I'm gonna turn all my dumb plugins off, and I got a bunch. Sometimes crazy sounds call for crazy measures. Now, I guess we'll go ahead and solo it. Here's what the vocal sounds like with nothing, just stock, dry, whatever. And I've kind of already messed with the gains just a little bit. You can see this when I turn down 2 decibels or something. That's going into the inserts like pre-faders, so that'll affect compressors and distortion and things like that. That was because I wanted the thing to ramp up a little bit. But anyway, here's the stock thing, solo vocal.
Can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone running these streets. God knows this will never last, Brother John. I won't let it be.
Okay, not a terrible vocal sound. Kind of boring, and I mean, I guess straight meat and potatoes. I guess there's some 300 that needs to go, and maybe 400. And there's kind of overall lack of top end, just a hair over the first part. When it starts really digging in, we get that top end, so that's tricky too. But for distortion, it really doesn't matter a whole lot, except for that lower stuff. We don't have a crap ton of 200 here, which is good. 100 to 200. Like in my vocal sound, like right now when I'm talking, there's definitely some, 150 to 100 in there. If we were to distort that, low end turns to mud faster than anything. And so I went ahead and added a decapitator, and I'm using E, which is, there's different styles, which is, I guess, just kind of types of distortion. And E is, to me, the most aggressive and just nasty. And so I always use it first. And I got the drive way up, which is how I roll as well. It's highly distorted. So let's hear what it sounds like with nothing but decapitator.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone running these streets. God knows that this will never last, Brother John. I won't let it be.
Okay, that's pretty over the top. And that sounds way, way, way too much. And it is. But the deal is the low end is really triggering that. And I'll say low end, anything under, let's just say 1K, is really going to make that work hard. And the more low end we have, the more screwed up the distortion is going to sound. Now, so let's go to a number 2 thing, which is the cambridge. Now you can see here, I did not go meek with this thing. I have a high pass set at 3.2K. Now it's 6 decibels an octave, so it takes a while before it really does anything of significance. Now here's the thing, when we're adding this much distortion and this much compression, I don't have a clue how many decibels of reduction if we were going to put that in compression terms, but I know that you can basically take this curve right here, you can see my mouse where it's drawing this, what's left of the signal, it's going to smash that right down, no problem, and then it's going to have makeup gain. That's kind of what the distortion is all about. And so what I mean by that is the actual curve is this EQ is kind of being nullified by all the compression. It's going to smash it all down and distort the crap out of it. But what it does do, it does keep 100 hertz quite a bit out of this thing. And I don't know how far down 100 hertz is, but you can see we'll hit the minus 20 mark, assuming this line's accurate, at, let's see, 300 hertz. Yes. So at 300 hertz, for 20 hertz or 20 decibels down, so that's 20 decibels less of the distortion that the distortion has to deal with. So that's a pretty cool thing. And we'll see here what it's going to do is reduce our mud. But what happens is we're adding 20 decibels of gain for sure with this distortion. So there's no doubt about it. 300 is going to come right back to us. So it's really just an issue of what I'm going to call de-emphasizing stuff that we don't want to emphasize. And really, I probably could get away with taking some of that top end out. That's something I thought of just now. Going into it, because maybe knock 3 or 4 decibels of top end off, like between 10 and 20 K, and that may actually solve some of my top end problems. But anyway, that'll come up later. Okay, so let's hear this thing before EQ. Just a little piece here.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied.
Okay, now let's put the high pass filter on the cambridge in here.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog.
And you could see that was a dramatic change. And not only in like intelligibility and clarity, I mean, we're still distorted for sure, but just overall turning the gain down. And that's because since all this stuff that's gone that we've nuked down here is no longer the signal is smaller, I guess you could say. Less gains or less signal going in, and so less distortion. So that kind of cleaned up our signal quite a bit, and I like that a lot more. And that's how I end up setting my gain, was with the EQ in first. Okay, but it's not quite there, so let's listen a little bit more and look for flaws in this thing.
They can try all they want, but they can't.
And there's a real peaky thing, and I'm gonna toss an equalizer after it, just so I can find it. Because, well, hang on, let's not get too complicated here. Let's just start. It sounds like it's around, I don't know, 8K, but I always goof that up. I'm going to go real high Q on this, but I got to be careful because the distortion is going to change how it works. But I'm hoping to get rid of a little bit of that nasty bleh. So we're just going to sweep it until we find it. Okay.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see.
Oh, I'm good. 8.5K. All right. Don't ever get proud of that. It always bites you in the keister. Okay, so I'm just going to pull it down and say, well, let's just actually feel it out, because the distortion's going to react to it. And I have no idea how much. Not in the normal way, where in a real mix I might say, oh, 3 decibels, we'll take care of that. Here I have no idea, because that distortion is just obliterating it.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see. Now,
And I want to show you that again, before and after. Okay, listen to like the kind of this screaming nasty sound before.
they can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up.
When it says they can try all they. Listen to they.
They can try all they want.
There's just I don't know what that is. Just a nastiness. So, but okay, I added my EQ, which was 8.5K, cut at 4.4 decibels, a Q of about 6. So nothing too drastic here.
They can try all they want, but they can't.
Now they still has some of that air or that extra to it, but it's just knocked down a little bit. And I can always go back to that. But anyway, this is a part of feeding the signal to the distortion that we want. And this is similar to feeding reverbs, what we want, and anything, what I'm calling a chemical change, where what comes out is dramatically different and all processed and just a different animal entirely. Go ahead and process the crap out of it going in to make that thing that processes it do better. Okay, anyway, let's see. I'm not entirely happy still. And a lot of this is just kind of a uniform measure now. I just got Voxengo Sonoformer. I think it's the single greatest plugin I own. I think it's something I should have bought 5 years ago if I would have known it did what it did. Highly recommend you check out this thing. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I use the tape compression preset. Not really because it says tape compression. I don't really care about the name. I wish they would have called it like, I don't know, Gonzo Burger or Purple Forest or something. But anyway, what it does is has 30, I think it's 30 bands, or however many bands there are. I never actually counted them. And so it's like a multi-band compressor, but instead of being a multi-band that they can do 4 bands, this thing does, I don't know, 20 or 30 or something. So what that means is it has a band centered at, say, 883, has a band centered at 707. This means that any individual tiny little peaky bass, it will catch. Now, this particular sound, we're going to compress the top end harder and then bring more back in. And a sound that I've been kind of toying with on my own for years, and this just does it better than anything I've ever heard. Okay, so before... Here's what we had before. This is just the decapitator and the Cambridge.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see. Now.
All right, and then we'll turn our sonoformer on.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone running these streets. God knows that this will never last, Brother John. I won't let it be.
And what that does to me, it fills. There's all kinds of little problems I almost always hear with vocals because they just different frequencies jump out and leap at you, and they're always really high Q, real narrow peaks. And if we had span on, we could see these things, these little tooth-looking things spiking up. And what it does is whenever anything that comes out of control too far, we can just kind of tame it down a little bit. And that just smooths it out and just makes it sound expensive to me. Like I said, it's what I originally expected, like expensive mics and preamps to do. Anyway, I'll do a full review on that later. But I do recommend you guys check this out heavily. The best $100 I think most of you are going to spend in this gig. I'd rather have a cheapo mic like an 80K S20 or, well, I'm using an 80K Odin right now. Use a cheaper mic like that, and this thing will get you way further than big money on mics most of the time. So anyway, moving on. So yeah, I like that. That's just kind of, I'm going to call that a conditioner, a professionalizer, something just to tame the peaks off. Now, in context, I still had a few like kind of creative, broad type frequency things I wanted to adjust. Now, this was actually before I did that 8K thing. So I used the UAD maximizer, and it's just trying to catch a few little things, a little bit of low end here and a little bit of just whatever's there. Again, I'm just smoothing it out, trying to get that frequency curve that I'm after.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet.
This isn't really a big deal. I'm just lightly touching any frequency that kind of bugged me. If I heard like a 200 hertz go, ooh, well, I'd use this guy and kind of just pull it down a little until it just barely knocked it down. This made a lot more sense in context. I'm not really going to bother that right this second because it's easier for you guys to hear this stuff most of the time, but that was just worth doing. Not a whole lot to talk about there. Okay, now I was still hearing some 6K sibilants that I did not like at all. I'm cool with the top end, like the 10K type S's, but the 6K was pretty bad. So one thing I do with the UAD de-esser here, Precision de-esser. There are other good ones out there. I don't know. I have this one. I use it, and I like it. I get what I need. It normally comes if you like this with it's a high shelf kind of deal where it's going to control all frequencies above 6.5K. I don't like that. I want it to be quite narrow because I don't want to hit 10K. If you start knocking off 10K, then we start getting into that, the sucker's ass, kind of sound. Really, I don't know. It sounds like you have a lisp or something. What I want to do is be pretty damn narrow here. And so it works. It doesn't use a standard Q system, which is annoying. But we can do, it says 0.46 of an octave, and that kind of thing's about wanting to be around half of an octave, whatever that really means. I don't know the details or really care. But if I go narrow and I'll leave it at 6.5, I can usually get the pain out of there and then not have any problems with it sounding weird. And it still kind of has the natural 10K, the good S. So we definitely want good S's. We just don't want bad ones. All right, let's hear that. I don't know if it'll make a huge difference, but let's just see.
They can try all they want.
Let me turn it on first.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone running these streets. God knows that this will never last, Brother John. I won't let it be.
And that's not doing a whole lot, and most of that's because it's after the distortion. Let's go and put it before the distortion and see if we can do something better. I'm starting to like this whole highly conditioned signal, and we could actually probably abuse this thing if we wanted to going before the distortion, because the distortion, like we said before, I mean, it reminds me of kind of digging a hole like in a wet area, like a swamp. It's always just going to fill right back up with water or whatever. So there's something to that where if we notched a hole with, say, the de-essing or EQ, the distortion is going to find a way just to fill that thing right back up. It's just going to smash stuff in there. But when it does it may just be a little bit less. It kind of neutralizes. So anyway, let's see what it does before the distortion.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone.
I'm going to go with that, actually. I'm going to keep the de-essing in front of the distortion, which is how I would do it with a compressor, too. I always put my de-essing first. And the reason for that is so the compressor doesn't have to deal with it, doesn't have to get confused. And afterwards, when we've already smashed the signal down, there's a chance that the difference between the good stuff and the bad stuff will kind of be smashed together. In this case, these S's should be leaping out pretty good. After distortion, they're not going to be leaping out as much, so greater chances of false positives and killing good stuff. So anyway, not a huge deal. I'm just kind of shaping this. And then lastly, I tossed a stereo delay. I did it on an insert. I made a stereo track in Cubase specifically for this. I could have used a send, and I often do, like I would say 90% of the time actually. But for this, I just wanted one vocal sound that sounded good, that did what I wanted, and that didn't, I didn't want to have to think about it, was my main motivation actually. And I may actually render this down as is and whatever, but you can see I created a whole new track for this because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of damage to it. And like the real vocal, there's the verse here, and the chorus is here. So this was just a workflow thing. It made sense to do it. I didn't really care much. So not a big deal. Let's hear what I did there.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppy dog. You'll see.
Not a big deal. I'm trying to, whenever I think of megaphones, I usually think of ambience too, kind of a slap back. I imagine, I don't know, a grocery store or something, you know, where the sound reflects and bounces off. That's a common sound for anybody that's yelling and hollering in a megaphone. And so I kind of like to do that whenever I do distortion vocals. Just adds a little bit of extra intensity and can really improve the just the kapow factor, and like some of the, like those running in those streets at the end will definitely leap out more so because of that. Let's actually check that out here. We'll go towards the end. This is full context, everybody. And if I turn it off, so we're just dry. You can tell it just needed a little bit of ambience of some kind. And for some reason, reverb never works for me on distortion, at least not like this. It's got to be this kind of slapback delay. And I'm using, let's see, 93 milliseconds and 62 milliseconds. Very little feedback and very little low end in the filtering. Okay, so that was just one particular example of how I do some distortion vocals. This is a pretty common setup for me for this, and if you gave me 100 different vocals to distort on 100 different records, they would go pretty close to this. I really like Decapitator. Camel Crusher is good. I mean, here's the thing too, don't get wound up about quality of distortions. By definition, that's the least quality thing on earth. I guess it'd be kind of like buying, you know, really high quality dog crap, or I mean, you know, something like that where it's just like you can't get this good. So Decapitator is useful because it usually helps you find what you're looking for, but I could have done this with a million different things, guitar emulators, whatever. And I would say no rules and be as creative as you can stand to be and afford to be with that. But the stock tools are almost always just as good, just different. Let's see, other than that, I guess we've pretty much covered one good example, but there are a million other ways to do this and different sounds, and we have to react differently to what the tracks are giving us, blah, 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 blah. But I wanted to just kind of take a magnifying glass onto one particular vocal so you kind of know what I'm thinking when I'm distorting these things. All right, guys, thanks. Bye.